Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Forever Bristol City podcast after the doom and gloom of Derby and Blackburn away. It was a much-needed win at Ashton Gate where it finished in front of 24,807 people. It finished City 2, Oxford 1. I'm delighted today to be joined by Neil, who sat with me in the FBC TV studio, and regulars Ian and Mark. Ian, I'll start with you. 30 seconds on your thoughts, how you felt immediately after the game.
I felt happy. I felt relieved. I'm glad it was a continuation to our home form, which if you did one of your famous extrapolations, Dave, if you spun that over 46 games, we'd finish up with 107 points. Unfortunately, if you did the same thing with our away form, we'd be relegated by Christmas and finish the season with 15 points. So we know where the issues are. We know where the problems are. I thought overall it was a good attacking performance and we were more solid in the second half. Two things that changed the game. Yu Hirakawa and Mark Harris's horrendous miss from 2 yards out.
Yeah.
He scores that. I think we lose that game. And Ashton Gate would have had a very different feel about it. But if you're anti and all the rest of it, so 3 more points at home, 7 out of 9. Now let's sort the away form.
Okay, Mark, what were your thoughts?
It had to be you, David. It had to be you. Really, after City's failure to turn dominance into goals in the first half, and then poor defending that led to the first goal, Yu Hirakawa's energy, touch, and excellent vision just transformed the game, and we looked like we could blow Oxford away after we scored the first goal. Laboured a little bit, but it was a good win. It was a good win in the end, but really made hard work of it.
Yeah, Neil, your thoughts?
A tale of two halves, really, in a lot of ways. I mean, Dembele shot in the first half as well that rattled the crossbar.
2-0 then.
2-0 then at half time, even worse booze, really, in relation to it. And as you pointed out, the Harris, but sometimes the season turns on those sort of moments, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, it certainly does. It certainly does. Well, the lineup, Ian, there were team changes anticipated. That came in the form of Premaulu and Sykes not starting, Roberts, Armstrong and Mehmeti coming in. Were those changes that you predicted, Ian, or could there have been others? What were your thoughts when you saw Liam?
I actually, if you look a week, almost probably a week before the game, I predicted the team we lined up with second half. And that's the team that I thought Liam Manning would go with. As I've said before, I differ with him on formation, especially away from home, where we've got to be more defensively solid. And I'd go with a back 3, but he didn't. He persisted with the 4. But I thought Mehmeti had plenty of opportunities to do something really good on the right. He didn't. Again, they moved him to the left, brought you on, and dropped Bird back into a position where his passing could be as effective, but he was in a deeper role. The problem is, I don't think yesterday Williams had to go off at halftime because he negated his game after 9 minutes by getting booked. Now that's the 3rd time Joe's been booked in 6 league games. And we cannot go on like that because tackling is a major part of what he does.
Probably about the only part, Ian.
Well, at the moment, Joe's out of form. But Jason Knight, in fairness, hadn't been far behind him. I thought he had a better game yesterday. But once again, you've still, with Bird and Knight, you've still got effectively, I think their best position would possibly be his 8s. So you've got 2 8s playing there instead of a 6 and an 8. And I think that can make a difference. Neither of them are what I'd call a proper defensive midfield player. Now, he might say, well, that's the way we're going to do it. You score 2, we'll score 3. You get 3, we'll get 4. And if it works, it's quite exciting. The trouble is, a little bit like Tottenham have found at the start of the season, if the wheels come off, you get a lot of brickbats. And that's the bit that he's got to sort out. And I'd be very unsurprised if he made, if he made a lot of changes for Swansea away.
Okay, Mark, Cam Pring, he's been a little bit out of sorts, and Hayden Roberts came in on the left side. And Williams, he's not having the best of form. He was taken off at half time, as Ian said. Do you think Williams was lucky? That's not the right word, but Williams lucky to be in the starting lineup. Those two in particular, Pring and Williams. One starts, one doesn't.
Yeah, I think Pring was dropped for his lack of attacking play, and Hayden Roberts was brought in, but he proved again what a better attacking player he is, but switched off at times, especially when he allowed Tyler Goodrum to sneak in behind him and hit the ball over the bar at the end of the first half. Williams was kept in there for his tackling ability, but really he should be dropped because of the lack of it. And again, we aren't screen. We're wedded to the 4-2-3-1, but the two aren't protecting the defence at all. And that was why Williams got booked, because every time somebody gets goal side of him, he's got this tendency to want to pull them back. That's a professional foul. That's a yellow card straight away. But I mean, when he did get that yellow card, the referee had let himself down, because he should have booked their player for fouling Armstrong, but decided to immediately make up for it by booking an Oxford player for a poor tackle about 2 minutes after he booked Joe Williams. But we just got, I mean, really, we miss the experience of Matty James and the ability to tackle in the middle of the field. And Williams is really letting himself down, because you've got two lightweight players, really, in my opinion, in the form of Knight and Bird. I mean, Bird looks like he couldn't tackle anything.
He's physical, but quite slight, isn't he?
He tends to slide in. I mean, he tried to tackle Tyrese Dolan last week when he robbed Williams and he rang back. I mean, he could have fouled him and got a yellow card, but all he did was he just slightly stopped him, but he carried on running. But that is the problem, really, in the middle of the field, that teams will exploit. We are really weak in front of the back four when we're transitioning and lose possession.
Neil, Mark Sykes, he can have no real complaints about being left out, can he? From the start?
No, I don't think so. No, I think realistically, the recruitment in the summer was all about replacing the two white men. You know, there was an acknowledgement that we needed to, and the injury to Worthy is giving Mehmeti a bit of a chance that we'll come on to. But and you was obviously bored to be on the right as well with Sykes, and it's an area to do. I just endorse Mark's views on Knight and Bird. You know, it's a lightweight sort of element to it. It reminds me that the Blackburn, I know we digressed a little bit, but the Blackburn, when you were just saying the chasing back, it was almost like the Masengo chase back all those season or two ago against Coventry. Like last minute, just foul the guy, take one for the team. And he just doesn't have that sort of physicality, do they? Neither Knight or Bird have that sort of level of physicality alongside James cutting out the passing channels in front of the sort of the back four, and we haven't got that shield.
Yeah.
So I'm sure at the start of the season, Manning's there thinking, well, we've got the fourth best defence. You know, we don't have to focus on the defence. Defence is going to sort itself out. Defence, let's focus at the other end of the pitch. Whereas actually what we've done now is we're about joint 23rd worst defence.
Yeah.
Because we've taken that shield away, and we're playing this type of game that ultimately is exposing our back four, because even with Dickey out, we're still talking about 4 of the back 5 being there last season.
Yeah, no, you're right there. I mean, it's if you look at one player who hasn't got any minutes on the pitch for us yet and obviously Liam signed him, and that's McGuane. Yeah, so maybe it's his chance, because I'm still trying to work out what is Knight's best position, because he's got a lot of energy. Yeah, and again, we'll look forward to the Swansea game.
He's an 8, Dave.
He's an 8, is he?
I think so. I think he's an 8. That's his best position. He's certainly not 6.
All right, he's not going to solve that problem either then.
Well, before he came to us, the last 7 or 8 games of the season for Derby, he played in 5 different positions, including right wing back and left wing.
Right.
So he's another one of those who suffers some way because of versatility. He can play a number of positions. Now you have to decide, well, where is a little bit like Bird. Bird can play 6, he can play 8, he can play 10. He could probably play 11 because he's got an excellent left foot. He's not the quickest, but he's quick enough. Now, what you've got to say is, well, okay, he can play it. Where is he best for us? It's what I call Rob Newman syndrome. They could never, or if you want more modern analogy, Taylor Gardner-Hickman syndrome. Yeah,
I think
reasonable
Rob
player.
Newman was good. Sorry, and I think Rob Newman was good wherever he played. To be honest, you know, he was
Yeah,
very
but he suffered from that. Oh, is he? Well, I don't know. We got a centre half fit now, so we'll put Rob right back. Oh, let's put him in midfield, and that's, you know. So I know, I think there was more of that years ago, to be fair, but you know, he suffers from that. And you're right about the Shield. What we were crying out for yesterday was a. But let me give you, and because I thought a lot about that. You look at the stats. The last two home games, there's been 3 shots on target against us. 3. Now we're saying, well, we're not defending that well. So what's the issue? Coventry had 1 shot on target and scored. They had 2 shots on target yesterday in the whole game. And I thought over the 90 minutes, they were the best team we've played at home. Over the 90 minutes. I'm not saying Coventry weren't better in bits, but they were pretty consistent for the entire game. And I think, although they were going long a lot in the first half, because they obviously fancied Harris's pace and Dembele getting the ball against our defence, and I'm including the defensive midfield in that. But they're not. I mean, Blackburn beat us 3-0. They had 3 shots on target in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So what? And it's not like we've got a terrible goalkeeper or anything like that. So that's what he's got to get his head around. And for me, sitting in Dolman stand, you look across the pitch, and it's clear as balls on a bulldog that there's a whacking great gap. When we're in attack, there's a whacking great gap between the defence and the midfield, and sometimes coming forward. And if you don't fill that gap, the opposition will. And you get a player like Dembele, who I rate, who picks the ball up and runs with it. And when they scored their goal, the guys picked the ball up and run through 3 of our players. Williams was one, he can't touch him. Bird was another. And I think the other one might have been Mehmeti, who honestly couldn't tackle his way out of a wet paper bag. So you've got to improve and develop that. And it's not about knocking people over, but if you ain't not going to knock people over, wide players, please get in the way. When you came on, he was around him like a rat, wasn't he, trying to get the ball back?
All right.
And that's what you need to do. But like I say, we're saying about the defence. For me, the defensive aspect of the midfield, but it's that gap. We're giving them too much space between the lines to play in. And the better teams you play, if we give Leeds that space, they'll destroy us.
Well, as probably a number of teams will. I was actually alluding to what McGuane's actual position is if he comes in. But
well, he's a holding midfield player, and his talent is travelling with the ball, which none of our midfield players are that good at. So he'll travel with the ball and pass it, and that increases the tempo you're playing. I think that's something we need at times.
Okay, Mark, Roberts was brought in for his attacking prowess, and he's got a lot more energy. You rightly picked up. Seems to have a lot more energy than Pring, who, whether that's a fitness thing on Cam's side, but we'd had a couple of chances, but it would have been a wonderful goal if it had been scored on 16 minutes when Roberts put in that cross, and Sinclair Armstrong. That deserved a goal, just the way he delicately placed the header, which went the wrong side of the post. But that was first real chance, wasn't it?
Yeah, great early cross from the corner of the 18-yard box, and Armstrong's run. He's run between the 2 defenders, huge space there, and I think he directs the ball. Whereas if he just gets a decent contact on it, he's taken the goalkeeper out and it goes into the goal. It would have been a great goal, and that's everything that Cam Pring isn't with his delivery that you saw from Roberts there, and that's what you need. Forwards want good service, and I think he got another. There was another cross later in the first half that came directly at him. It was hit harder. He was slightly behind it, but he still got a header and it went over the bar. So yeah, forwards want service. That's a major problem in our game. Our crossing is genuinely quite poor. We overhit most of the time.
And Mark, Armstrong's getting criticism in some quarters of the fan base, saying, "Oh, look, 3 goals in 60 appearances." I hate seeing that 60 appearances because they weren't starts. That's 60 appearances, including substitutes, including substitution ones. As I've said on numerous occasions, we're shopping in the centre aisle of Aldi for about 1.2 million quid. If we can build him, that's not a bad signing, really, is it? At the end of the day, Armstrong.
No, he's got great upper body strength, so he can go inside full backs with his pace and physicality and beat players. I mean, when he came on last week, he almost set a goal up for Twine before we lost the ball. And they scored down the other end. So he holds the ball up well. He runs the channels well. His first touch isn't always brilliant, but he can't get the ball at his feet. He's got to learn to hit the ball earlier in one-on-ones. But he's a much better number 9 playing that way. I mean, I think most teams are looking at the Liverpool forward and Erling Haaland, somebody who can score goals and hold the ball up and bring the midfield 3 into play. So I think he will get better, but I think we've got to have a bit of patience with him. But he's just got to improve his finishing. But I think there is a player there, definitely. And he gives 100. He gives 100% every game. Always works his socks off.
No, he does, most definitely. Neil, you wanted to raise it just a second ago. Just tracking back.
Okay, we'll probably move past that because we'll keep continuity going on it. But with regards to Armstrong, for me, he's got 2 league goals this year, and it's been in our 2 wins, and it's been by 1 goal. So ultimately, the contributions that he's made, yes, these damn XGs, he's taking a lot of chances to actually get those goals and missing a lot of chances. But you know what? He's getting in the positions. He's making the runs. He's a threat. He's a threat that opens up the opportunity for other players, on the team. And other players need to step up. Sinclair is still young. Yeah, he's raw. Yes, we know the type. But you see him on there. He's got pace. He's got power. He needs to be a little bit more subtle in the way.
First touch isn't that great sometimes.
Well, it's not so much that, Dave, as in like when he gets into physical confrontations with defenders and gets into this, he almost ends up pile driving them into the floor and then turns around and goes surprised that he's had the foul. He needs a bit of the Naki Wells sort of subtlety that comes with, if you're going to have pace, you're going to have power. They're going to hold onto you. They're going to grip onto you. Don't react. Yeah. Don't wind up in a way in which Twine can. People get hold of Twine and he gets annoyed, he gets ruffled, it affects his performance. There's a few like that, and that's with Sinclair, but he gets into places, he gets the opportunities. And as a manager, if I was managing him, I'd be looking at him and going, we need to work. There's something to work with there. There's something definitely work with. And he's got 2 league goals. There's 3 goals in 60. Well, he's got 2 league goals in 6 games for us already. Yeah. So to me, he looks like a double figure goals for the season. Yeah. So
he's got to get 10 if he carries on, and that's being conservative.
10 to 15.
And Twine, I mean, in the starting lineup, Neil, was Twine. I said second half Twine was played in his proper position, but Twine to me looked like he was sort of out wide, and he combined a couple of times well with Mehmeti, because as Ian pointed out earlier, 16 shots, we had 7 on target, I think it was during the game. And twice Twine and Mehmeti combined, and Mehmeti bought smart saves from their goalkeeper, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the shots on target doesn't always tell the whole story, does it? Because we look at the shots on targets and we think, well, City's defence, we've only allowed 3 shots on target. So the Dembele that hit the crossbar, the Tyler Goodwin, and the Mark Harris that we'll get to, all off target. But could easily have been opportunities where they scored. So sometimes you can look at a shot on target, and it's more a question of their bad finishing in situations rather than us defending well because we only allowed 3 shots on target. Defensively, we've not been there this season.
We're not. No,
we're not there. I mean, whichever way we put a spin on it, we're not there. We've got the shield that Ian's spoken about and I've spoken about, but Viner has not had a good season.
No.
Tanner, I thought, was good yesterday.
He's been our most consistent defender.
Tanner's our most consistent. Pring is already out of the team, and we're missing that pivotal Dickie for another month. So, and Max has been not at his best either.
But there's no challenge. There's no challenge. Ian, the goal, you talked earlier about the way they broke through the defence because there's that massive hole there. Blackburn did it a couple of times that I can recall last week. And the goal, take us through the goal as you saw it, because it was just straight down. They just seemed to overrun us, didn't they?
They played some nice football, and Dembele took 3 of our players out of the game with one clever turning move. He's quite quick, quite powerful, charged forward, played an attempted 1-2 on the corner of the box, got a lucky deflection, and it set the ball up nicely, but still a nice finish for Rodriguez, who made a good run. Now, who was tracking him? And he flicked the ball past Max. I don't think there was a lot you could... once they're in on goal like that, there's not an awful lot you can do unless the keeper gets a hand to it, or the guy lifts it over the bar, or indeed hits the bar. So that is what I said about the defensive shield. You'd wonder, and I agree. I think Zach Viner is a much better player when Rob Dickey's next to him. But then again, so would I be, so would you be, and so would McNally be. And I thought McNally was decent yesterday, and I think he's a better footballer and a bit quicker than people give him credit for. But Zach needs that dominant centre back next to him, and there was a little element of luck about their goal, but they repaid that when Harris slashed the ball wide from 2 yards out with one that I'd have scored, or you or anybody else. So that's football. And we're back in if you're anti territory, because we could have been 2 or 3 goals up at half time at Derby. We didn't take our chances, as Neil alluded to earlier on. Armstrong needs to get some of the training that Wayne Allison had, because Wayne used to always get too close to the goalkeeper, so the goalkeeper could dive on the ball almost or block him. And then he started finishing. Instead of trying to finish from 5 yards, he'd try and finish from 10. And his goal scoring went up dramatically because the keeper didn't have time to set itself. So Sinks needs that. You're right. I said to somebody yesterday, and somebody's made the point on here, that if you could put Naki's brain into Sinclair's body, you'd probably have a £25 million striker. But if we'd add that, he wouldn't be here, or if he was here, he wouldn't be here. Wouldn't be here very long. So you're right on that. But that first goal, I thought Oxford were worth it. But at the time, I think, as you said, we could have been a couple of goals up. So you've got to be clinical and take your chances, because the side that scores first wins an awful lot of games in the Championship.
Well, certainly when they're playing against Liam Manning teams, as somebody put a statistic on the forum this week.
But that doesn't account for anything else.
I'm just.
Well, you are, because you've mentioned it. You've mentioned it 3 times on the last 2 podcasts. So don't say I'm not being critical when you're being critical.
Yeah, right, Mark. What are you going to say?
Well, the goal actually results from City doing their famous switching off, because we pressed the ball in Oxford's half. Armstrong fouls the centre-back, and Williams, they take the free kick. The centre-back just hits the ball 15 yards into our half to Dembele, past Williams, and Dembele's away. Williams is in his wake. Then when he gets to the edge of the area, there's 3 defenders around him as he tries to play Rodriguez in. It hits one of them and flows over the top of the City defence for Rodriguez to follow in. But we switch off at the free kick. He just takes a quick free kick. Then Dembele's on the ball, keeps running, powder puff challenging. I think Williams runs past the defenders, but he's completely out of the picture because he's done his switching off again, and it's 1-0 down.
Yeah, and Williams again, just like, never mind the opening goal against Blackburn, where he was put on the spot by Max's poor kick, but he was left with his face in the ground for that second goal in similar fashion, wasn't he? So Joe, I think Joe needs a rest.
If he's alert, maybe he can block the ball, but they just don't concentrate. I mean, Dembele's got all that space to run into. He's in that pocket. Great big space behind Williams to advance onto the defence. Again, no defensive screen whatsoever. No. But somebody should have been able to tackle Dembele. 3 defenders converging on 1 player.
Yeah.
Or I don't like to say these things, or trip him up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
why
just
not?
foul him. That's what other teams would do,
Yeah.
you know.
And as
take
Ian said a
one.
moment ago, Joe Williams, he's got booked 3 times this season.
Yeah, he's
and,
on.
and,
He's
and
gonna
the
get. He's
player
online
that
for a
we
ban, isn't he?
signed from the player that we signed from Wigan was for that all-action aggressive style, and I think he was suspended twice in his last season before he came to us because he got so many bookings. Neil, we've done the goal, but it could have been worse at going into half time because another quick break akin to what they had before, and McCachran sets it up. And that shot from Dembele, I mean, he was a thorn in our side that first half, but against the bar, I mean, if that goes in, it's a worldie, but it didn't, and it kept us in the game, didn't it?
Would have been a worldie, wouldn't it?
Mm.
Fantastic shot. But yeah, I mean, just generally at the moment, there's a certain lack of energy in our defending. I would say, just building on what Ian and Mark have said, there's just, if I had to look at a stat at how many sort of block shots we've got, how many sort of times that we sort of dive in front of players, you know, get half touches. If you look at the way that we're sort of defending at the moment, it's loose, it's slack. Whether there's a lack of confidence in there, but the way Dembele sort of broke on us there, fantastic shot, fantastic. I mean, Max was getting nowhere near that, and obviously rattled off the crossbar. But I know that good room as well. Really, that shot as well. It was.
Earlier on, before our goal.
Yeah, before the goal. You know, which had. So it was coming again. We were just, you know, like we've said, there's momentum at home. We look open and we look fragile. We look a bit fragile confidence-wise defending at the moment, which is not us last year. You know, it's the same personnel. What's changed? Are we just saying that Dickie's come out of the picture and then the other?
He shouldn't he's good, Dickie, but he shouldn't make that amount of difference, should he?
In the Dolman where we are,
He does.
In the E32 when we did it, we said we had a bit of a poll before the Coventry game. We said, "What's your first name on the team sheet each week?" And we all went round and went, Dickie. Dickie is the first name on the team sheet for me. And you've taken him out, and then the other back four just seem to have really suffered. You know, in a way in which we're not talking about 20-year-olds or 19 and 20-year-olds. Pring, Viner, Tanner, these are experienced championship players, but their confidence just seems to have
confidence
eroded.
Or is it leadership? And let me come on to Ian on that. Ian, leadership. Knight is captain, and some people are saying the burden of captaincy on Knight is too much for him. But is he a leader? Is he somebody that would galvanise the players together? Because if you look at the back four, Tanner, Viner, McNally, Roberts, none of them strike me as dominant personalities in the way that Lewis Carey. I can remember a game against Southampton probably 10 years ago. Southampton were good, and Lewis Carey galvanised us to hang on for a victory. I think it was back in the day when Danny Rodriguez, might have been when he broke his leg that time. Lewis could lift a team. You know, people like Jerry Gow, you mentioned Rob Newman, they could pull the lads together and lift them. And I don't see that leader out there now, whereas James did it sort of in a subtle way, didn't he? What's your view on captains?
You get two types. You get the one that screams in balls, and you get the one that leads by example. And you get some that are a combination of the two. I would say Rob Dickey is probably the closest thing you got, and he does make that much of a difference because he's a class player. There's no two ways about it. He can do things that our other defenders can't, and that does make a big difference. Joe Williams should be one of the leaders, but if you're not having a great time yourself, you don't get the opportunity to dig other people out because you'll get short shrift from them. So this lack of leaders thing is something that managers, coaches, recruitment teams should address. I always remember Lee Johnson famously saying the trouble with our lineup is we haven't got many leaders, and he'd signed 72 players. And you think, well, surely if you sign 72 players, you're going to get some leaders, but purely by accident. So I think that the team, well, we do seem capable. Yesterday, they got a goal. You could say it was against the run of play, but I thought Oxford played reasonably well yesterday. But I was surprised at, coming back to one thing I was going to say to Neil, block shots, we block 5, they block 1 in the 90 minutes. So it can, I think sometimes, and I've suffered from this, it looks worse. It looks worse than it actually is. And when you sit down and go, like a little bit like, oh, well, we're defending terribly. We do look a bit, I think away from home, I completely agree. We do look fragile. But at Blackburn, we didn't look in the game. And I mean, almost from minute 1. And that was the thing that disappointed me. Derby, you could say, well, if we took our chances in the first half, we'd have won. It'd been a different game. That's true. But you've got to take those chances. But at least on the positive side, we're creating them and we're scoring goals. Now, the problem last season, at the end of the season, Manny said, we've got to score more goals. We've got to improve in the final third. And I think overall, over the 6 league games, we have. The problem is, in doing so, the defence isn't as good. And we conceded 3 against Millwall with Rob Dickie in the side. So let's not get carried away. But I think Rob Dickie in that side, I know he's a really good player and I really rate him highly, but I didn't realise what a massive miss he would be and the effect he has on other players. You talk about bringing the ball out. I was just watching Match of the Day highlights, and the amount of times clubs drop themselves in it playing out from the back is absolutely unbelievable. I reckon there'd be 100 less goals in the Premier League every year if sides were more sensible. I'm not talking about booting it the length of the field and running after it, but some of the playing out that goes on, especially from goalkeepers, is absolutely ludicrous. And what Max did at Blackburn, I watched the highlights. You can see Brentford's goalkeeper doing it. Tottenham's goalkeeper went for a mazy dribble in his own 6-yard box and finished up falling on the ball. It's just chaos at times. And when it works, it looks great. But I think you have to mix it up a bit. And that's one thing we can do with Armstrong in the side that we can't do with Fally. Because Fally wants the ball to feet, coming towards the ball. We can put the ball in behind for Armstrong. You've got Hirakawa as well, who's quick. And all of a sudden, when Hirakawa came on, their left back knew he was in a game.
Oh, he did.
And you could see they were absolutely terrified to leave any grass behind him. And it made a massive difference to the game.
Okay, into the second half, Mark, and Hirakawa's come on. I noticed that Twine did move properly into the middle. Some people were saying Twine was playing 10 when we were in possession, but he was there in the middle, and Twine and Knight both had shot saves. And the pivotal moment of the game, somebody put this as a post on X, I think, came between the 55th, 57th minute, because Rodriguez put in the cross, Ian alluded to it earlier, Harris toe poked, he got a connection to it and it went wide, and then we got the goal. I mean, Mark, if that goes in 2-0, it's game over and, the world's caved in. But the miss and the goal came within 90 seconds of one another, didn't they? Take us through both those incidents as you saw it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good bit of attacking play from deep again by Oxford, and they got the bodies forward. I think I don't know if Rodriguez got it to Goodrum on the right, and he plays it across the box perfectly. He just needs to get a proper contact at the far post, Harris, and I think he's embarrassed when he misses. I mean, I would be, and it was nearly as bad as the Mehmeti miss for us against Coventry the other week. We didn't get. He allowed the defender to put the ball out, but he's got to score there. He could walk the ball into the net. And he passes it past the far post. Embarrassing, really. And then our goal, Hirakawa, picks up the ball on the right-hand side, feeds it to Knight. Great cross, hard cross into the 6-yard box. Armstrong arrives on the ball, strikes it first time through the goalkeeper's legs. So it just goes up through and up into the net. But more than deserved. I mean, we dwell on the fact that Oxford missed, you missed that golden chance and City equalised. You could say exactly the same thing. We had several chances before they scored. That's football, isn't it? If you don't score when you're on top, If you don't score from your best chances, you get punished. And Oxford rightly got punished. But it swung the game completely. But fantastic.
Totally did. Neil, that was a pivotal. That's when, if it's 2-0 and do we get back from that? Maybe not, although we were playing quite well. And then 1-1 and our tails are up. But
all for
fine
miss.
Margins, isn't it?
All for miss. We don't need to throw. The thing that Harris does quite intelligently is he makes a move towards the ball that causes Viner to move, and then checks his run to get by. So really intelligent movement by him. But by doing it, he's just slightly off balance, and then has to toe poke it at the end.
That's right. He sort of almost helped it. If it had been a straight toe poke, it's in, isn't it?
Yeah.
He glanced off the outside of his foot. I looked at it.
He made the movement towards it, really intelligent movement, and then sort of pulled back from it to actually create the space. A really intelligent movement from the centre forward that took Viner out of that situation. But then by doing so, he just slightly, the thing. If you were Des Buckingham for Oxford, you would be annoyed about our goal, because if you look at the way that we get in that position and the way that our Twines had it, Fally had it in the Millwall game, the way that our centre forward pulls back onto sort of the edge of the 6-yard box penalty spot, and they're looking for a cutback. And we've tried to walk the ball in. We've scored a few goals like that. Twine up at Derby did exactly the same, and they threw their bodies in a line and it deflected in the first half and stuff. But that goal from Sinclair is, I think, at least 2 of our goals have come exactly in that way. With the cut back to the penalty spot, so teams will know. They'll have all our analysts. They will know that's what we're going to do. So defensively, Oxford would be really disappointed to concede a goal like that, knowing that's how we're going to shape up on that right-hand side and the pass that we are going to look to make to whoever forward, whether it be Fally, whether it be Twine in that position, or whether it be Armstrong in that position. But as Mark said, that's football, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Crazy game that football is.
Yeah. Ian, we made a substitution on 65, Wells coming on for Armstrong. Somebody said Armstrong looked a little bit shell-shocked that he was taken off, and it was not. I think it's the first time that Naki's been brought on as the first striker substitution. I mean, obviously he scored the pen, but the timing of substitution and who it was. I mean, Fally didn't get any minutes yesterday, but good to bring on that experience of Wells. And why do you think he got the nod over Fally?
I don't really know. If I was making a decision, I'd have brought on Fally. And I'd have also brought on Campring earlier, but I would have possibly for Mehmeti. I think him for Mehmeti was a better substitution. I was talking about bring him on for Hayden Roberts, because I think he got his second win towards the end, but Hayden was definitely struggling towards the end of the game, as he would, because that was his first appearance of. Well, he might have had a few minutes before, but that was his first appearance of the season. Naki's an experienced striker. He's also, touch wood, a pretty good penalty taker. And it'd be interesting to find out who's on penalties when Naki's not on the field. I'm guessing it might be Scott Twine. He strikes quite a good dead ball.
I would have thought so.
But I don't know. But it'd be interesting to find out. But I mean, Naki's got that experience. He knows where to run. He knows how to back into defenders, buy free kicks. Sometimes he gets a bit carried away and he'll go running into the back of somebody for no good reason. But he moved out wide and moves into the channels. And if he gets the ball played into feet, not 3 feet above his head, sometimes he can hold it up, and he doesn't waste the ball that much. He doesn't give it away too much. So. I mean, it's not a substitution I'd have made, but then again, what do I know?
What do you know? What do any of us know?
Well, Mark, I've heard Manning substitutions criticised, but this season it's won us 2 home games. Against Millwall, his substitutions were absolutely smashing, and against and yesterday his substitutions worked out. So what I've said in the article I wrote on X was, about the game, I criticise him and applaud him in equal measure. I applaud him for making the substitutions. I think he got them all right. I criticise him for setting up the way he did it in the first place, because Twine, and I said this before the game, if you look back at what I put on X, well, as soon as I saw the side, I said, "Oh, the God, Twine's not playing off to the left and Mehmeti's on the right." But I think that's what he's going to do. And he did. And for me, it didn't work. It should have been Irakawa on the right, Twine as a central 10. And I'm in a position now where I think Anis has had enough chances. I'd be getting Elijah Morrison in on that left-hand side. If you're going to play if you're going to play a left winger, open the pathway and play a left winger. Right?
Okay, no, I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that, Ian. Mark, Scott Twine looked, involved yesterday, and in the second half he was playing. I could see what I think is his best position. I expect you were hopeful as I was when we got that free kick inside the D, but it wasn't the greatest of attempts, was it?
Well, he got a direction on it, but he lifts it over the bar. I mean, he even dragged it back about a yard because, I mean, you're in the D. It's difficult to get the ball up and down, isn't it? So he pulled the ball back. I think he might have done that when he scored his free kick late in the season. But yeah, I mean, he's a player that needs space. He needs some space in front of him to run into. And he's got real energy, got great passing ability. Sometimes I like to see him take an early shot. I think he's too unselfish. When he played Mehmeti in the second half and he came in on his right foot and belted it over the bar, take a shot. His shooting's not bad. Make the keeper get down early and make a decision. You can always follow the ball in. But he looked far better in the middle. He makes things happen, provides energy. And I think when we play away, I think we got to be a little bit more defensively solid. I'd play a 4-4-1-1. Just drop those two midfielders back into a flat four, bring the other two back and play a 4-4-1-1. Make it harder to play through us because in transition, we'd be great on the counter attack. We don't need to play as much front foot football. Let's build our way into the game and really hit teams hard on the break. I think we can really do that.
And Mark, Ian was talking about Mehmeti. He's had enough chances now, and about Morris, and obviously you've got Nelson coming back into that position as well. But we had 16 shots. By my calculation, Mehmeti...
Well, according to BBC, we had 19 and 6 on target.
Mehmeti had his fair share of shots, didn't he?
Yeah.
But just doesn't... I mean, he's not a player that is going to take us to that next level, and we'll talk about team selection, Swansea and beyond later. But moving on to you, Neil, for the what proved to be the winning goal, and you was terrorising that fullback, as Ian said, and he put that pass into Roberts, and it was a typical attacker's tackle in his own penalty box on Roberts, wasn't it?
Can I make a point about Armstrong for a moment? Actually, really good point that Ian made about the wide left and the whole Mehmeti quandary. One of the listeners here that's on the text, sorry, couldn't see what the name was there. Armstrong on the left?
I said that last week. I've said that in the last two podcasts.
Armstrong on the left maybe is like a Semenyo type guy on the left? You're disagreeing in relation to...
I think going forward it would be okay, Neil. I'm worried about the defensive aspect because one of the things we've done to Cam Pring, who hasn't had his best season, 2 seasons ago, Cam Pring was our top assist maker with his crossing. But then again, we had players like Semenyo in the team and Chris Martin. So I worry about him. His defensive capability, and I wouldn't mind seeing him play up front in a 2 with Fally, with Twine in behind him.
He's got to have a better defensive capability than Mehmeti out there, surely. Though, I mean, the one thing
I'm not being funny. Neil. If we want somebody with some defensive ability, then you've got Elijah Morrison who plays left back, left wing back, and left wing. You ain't going to get
that's ahead of a league from the under 21s up to playing left wing though.
Yeah, but the kid actually played left back for England when he went there. So all right, England under 19s or whatever it was. But look, I think he's worth a go. I honestly don't think he can be worse. I mean, we've tried Mark Sykes there, that don't work. We've tried Anis has had God knows how many games, and I said to somebody yesterday, trouble Anis, he has one good game in 5, and he said, no, it isn't. It's one good game in 11. And I think rather than go into the transfer market, I mean, it's a shame that Ray Nelson tore his hamstring, because I think he'd have been in the team because he was having a really strong pre-season, and both him and Elijah can tackle like fullbacks. So if you want some cover in front of the fullback, or as somebody suggested to me yesterday, and I'll tell you who it was. I was chatting to her. It was Ellie. She suggested play Roberts in front of Pring, or Pring in front of Roberts.
Yeah,
if you want to,
that's an option.
If you want to be more if you want to be more solid, but and I agree with Mark, we need to be more solid as a unit. It's not specifically the defence; it's the defensive aspect of our midfield. We just, and moving Armstrong wide. Other people have said it, Neil. You're right. I just don't think it's the right option. I think he's better where he is, and I think if we start doing that, we could spoil the kid, upset his balance and stuff like that. So I just don't.
I think the thing with Pring for me, I know he had his operation in the summer and the hernia, and then there's a lack of dynamic about him that was there previously. If you look at the assists that he had that Dave illustrated, they were getting to the goal line, weren't they? They were getting in behind the back and cutting it back across. He's just not done that now for a long period of time for me. He doesn't have the stop-start acceleration that he had a year ago. Just seems to be missing from Cam's game at the moment. He gets in behind the back. Against Millwall, there was a little sign of it, obviously, when they were chasing the game and they took Eze off, and because he was having a torrid time against Eze. But just that ability that Cam used to have, that extra gear that he used to have to go past players, that extra gear to get to the goal line, to pass it back, where people like Sykes at the other post were coming in and scoring it, just seems to be missing from his game. Well, if that's missing from his game, what exactly is Cam Pring giving to us? Because he just doesn't look the player that he did. Whether there's an injury, whether he's coming back from his hernia operation, whatever, we never know, do we? With players, they might be operating.
I think that lack of cover is got a hell of a lot to do with it, Neil. Against Derby, he was up against 3 other players. He was just totally exposed down that our left flank, their right.
Yeah, but I think generally, I know I was at Derby watching there in the crowd, and as he came forward first half, as he was moving forward, Twine was going into the centre really with Max Bird crowding the centre natural, and he had no one in front of him. He was driving down the left and having to stop and pass backwards because there was nothing in front of him. So I completely understand. It's just I wasn't surprised to see Hayden come in yesterday for Pring in a home game, because normally you'd be looking at the strengths of Pring, driving forward, getting there defensively.
Well, his omission was a culmination of some poorer performances, but as Ian has said more than once this season, poorer performances because he's been exposed on that side by what's been in front of him.
But in himself, I agree absolutely with the lack of shield in front of him, but he hasn't been.
But we don't know, and that's the psyche. That's the psyche. When you talk about what's going on in his head, did he want away? Was there a hint of a move that nobody knew about, or something, and he's feeling a bit?
I think nowadays they're all wearing these catapult systems on the back. The analysts will look at their performances. The analysts will be looking at their studies, and I'm sure that his stats, performance stats during a game, sprints, whatever, down.
Okay,
I'm sure.
Well, we won't be privy to that.
Yeah.
And sticking with you, Neil, you putting that pass in for Robert, fouled by Harris. Naki dispatched that with aplomb, wasn't it? Yeah. Although when I looked at it from behind the goal, the keeper almost got his hands to it. Wasn't far away, but it was always nice to see a penalty go in high and ripple the net, wasn't it?
He always he gets close. I remember Sunderland away when De Silva that long wait for a penalty and Patterson nearly got it, and the keeper went away. I don't think Naki sort of particularly. Tommy was very good on the penalties. Conway was very good on the penalties, sending the keeper the wrong way, whatever, and everyone goes the right way with Naki. He just places it extremely well, doesn't he? He's one of those players that you just have confidence in on that situation, in that penalty, because that That was a good penalty.
It was.
That was a very
even
good
though the
penalty.
keeper was
Yeah,
not
even
too
though-
far away.
Well,
Ian, after that, we pretty much saw the game out, really, didn't we? I mean, somebody had put earlier on the text feed that Oxford sort of went off a bit as the game went on, but after we took the lead, other than the Tottenham loanee, I think it is, or ex-Tottenham, Dane Scarlett putting one wide, we didn't look like we were going to let that one slip, did we?
No, our game management is something else that has improved this season, and it's not just purely taking the ball in the corner and running the clock down. We've got a bit cute with it in winning some free kicks at times. I didn't think there was. I thought the referee was pretty good yesterday, but there were quite a large number of free kicks, and for a change, we gave away more than the other side. So you couldn't call the ref a homer. No, I think overall, if you look at the game over 90 minutes and you look at our attacking play and you compare the two sides, I think it was definitely a deserved win. And if I'm being honest, we should have beaten Coventry. And that would have put us in a much stronger position. And I think you said when we were off air, or Neil might have said we're in a very Bristol City position. We played 6, won 2, drew 2, lost 2. That is absolutely. If you did that over a season, you finish up with 61 points. Hey presto, that's about what we got last season. Yeah. So it's not hard to see where we need to improve. But it's being able to improve, and we've got to realise we're in a competitive division, and lots of teams in that division have strengthened. Now Sunderland have done it slightly differently. Their winning goal against Middlesbrough yesterday was scored with a back heel by a 17-year-old lad who took the ball past the goalkeeper in open play, and they're playing a lot of kids, and it's working for them. But they beat Middlesbrough at home yesterday. Last week they lost away to, quotes, Wayne Rooney's Argyle, 3-2. Yeah. And Argyle I think that's the only points they've picked up this season.
It is, right.
So look around it. Yeah, we're 11th in the table today. If we beat Swansea, or 7th. If we beat Swansea next week, we go above them.
Yeah.
So it's very early days, which is why I prefer to look at the games in blocks of 10 where you've played in the league. That is when you played 5 home, 5 away, and then you start to get a feel. And then when you look after 20 games, that's nearly half the season gone. And you'll have some clue that, barring accidents, illness, and injuries, that's round about where you'll be.
I would think so. A couple of comments coming up on the text feed here. David said, we played 3-6-1 in possession. Interestingly, I said to the person I was watching the game with yesterday, it looked like we had a 3 at the back, which was Tanner, Viner, and McNally, just the shape of it sometimes, but we won't go into debate on that. Darm One has said Sykes on the left, maybe cutting in for goal. No, I'd much sooner now, as Ian said, see one of the youngsters come through in that left side position if we're going to bring anybody else into the match day squad.
Or if you want a more experienced player, you can play Robert Sapring there, if it's just experience that people are worried about.
Get that earthy.
Oh, well, I'm going to come on to him in a minute, because I mean somebody's being your friend Graham's criticising me, saying about Earthy, and he's not our player. Why do we even want to consider accommodating him? Come on to that in a minute. Mark, the referee Will Finney, only his second championship game. I thought that was probably, and Ian said he awarded 30 free kicks, 16 against us, 14 against them. I thought he had a good game, the ref.
Yeah, I think it's only error, really. I think he should have given a yellow for the foul on Armstrong early in the game, where he turned the full back and he cleaned him out. Pretty even-handed. Book 4 Oxford players, fairly, in my opinion. I mean, if you don't really notice the referee, if there aren't any major incidents, he's usually done a good job. So yeah, I didn't realise it was his second game. I mean, and the crowd was fantastic, 24,000. A number of which around me in row 6 of the lower Lansdowne, W16, decided to make for the concourses at about 3:20. It was a monsoon. I felt like I was acting in a Levi's commercial, to wear a new pair of 501s in. I was absolutely saturated. It was incredible, wasn't it? I mean, you're up in the gods, obviously, David, with your binoculars, aren't you?
Well,
And
actually, I was in a different.
You've got your
seat.
cashews
I was in a
and your
different
flute
seat.
and your flute of prosecco, and you're looking through binoculars up there.
No,
aren't you?
I was in a different seat yesterday because I gave my lower Lansdowne season tickets away, and I was sat in the centre block of
Only joking.
the Lansdowne,
Oh,
and I did the.
You and John, was it? You and
I
John?
was sat about 5 rows in front of Mr. Lansdowne, a wall separating us, and I sort of caught his eye. And in years gone by, Mr. Lansdowne has always smiled because we've met and spoken a couple of times, but I got a steely stare. So whether he's been listening to some
He
of the
didn't.
shit
He didn't. You know, he didn't turn around and say, "I'm considerably richer than you."
Yeah, no, but I did do corporate hospitality for the first time in a very long time.
That would
I
have made him smile.
I thought it was okay. I mean, it was. I won't say how I got the corporate hospitality, but I thought it was okay. But you know, if I was, it's nice to go in and have a cup of tea at half time, although the coffee was cold, as was the tea. But they have done it up in there, the Lansdowne. They split it in two now. Sow and Cow's in the Heineken Lounge, but you know, it was an enjoyable day. And you know, I mean, Oxford fans, we spoiled their big day out, all 3,000.
Yeah, I always think it's strange when there's no colour clash, and they turned up in numbers. Bright yellow wall, Borussia Oxford, in terms of the yellow away end, made loads of noise, and they go and change their flipping kit, don't they, to their away kit. Anybody think that they were trying to sell more away
Everybody
shirts?
seems to be. They're another club, a bit like us. Our away kit. You got this porridge colour, isn't it? You know, or something like that. Right.
It's
look
more
forward.
ivory than white, isn't it?
Neil, you mentioned Earthy, and let's look at some of the players that are, as Ian said, Ian says unavailable, but close to being worthy of selection. Yeah, who have been injured, and obviously, we've got here Atkinson under 21s on Monday. Ian, correct? Yes, is there a game? So Atkinson,
Yeah, along with Ross McCrory.
Yeah, McCrory coming back to fitness as well. Earthy was on the pitch in the pre-match warm-up, somebody told me. Yeah. So, Neil, when it comes to the Swansea bench, if Atkinson, McCrory and Earthy, who take everything away of what's sort of gone on yesterday and the previous two games, but Atkinson, Earthy and McCrory, you'd expect them to be first picks, wouldn't you? Prior to them getting their injuries, because Earthy's come here not to warm his ass, sat on the bench or get splinters in it.
Agreed.
He's got to play.
Well, he has, but I actually looking at our bench from yesterday. Our bench was really strong.
Yeah,
yesterday.
no, but that's what I'm saying. So, notwithstanding changing the
difficult.
starting 11,
Yeah.
Earthy, Atkinson, and McCrory, they come onto that bench of 9. Who do you leave out of the 9 that were on the bench there?
Well, I'm sorry to say, Harry would probably drop out there, and
Cornick and Naismith?
Potentially Naismith, I would say. If you're dropping 2 from there and you're bringing in Atkinson as a defender, then you'd look at Naismith, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So Naismith and Cornick for Earthy and Atkinson.
And what about McCrory? Well, 2 million.
Who'd be a manager, Dave?
Well,
who'd be
exactly.
a manager?
We'd like to think we are.
But there we go.
But I mean, Ian, the same question to you. Those 3, if they're available for selection for Swansea, never mind starting it. Do you agree with Neil? Who drops out?
All on the bench for me. Cornick would be out. Naismith would be out, and you one of Sykes and Mehmeti would be out.
Well, Mehmeti started, so.
Well, that's so you're making space in.
You think Mehmeti would go from starting to not in the squad? I mean, what about dropping?
Possibly. Well, it'd be possible. Look, let me tell you, and I will. It would be Sykes. You don't need 2 or 3 wingers on the bench.
No, you don't.
So, and like I say, if you bring Morrison in, I don't think Liam Manning will for a minute.
No.
But if you bring him in, then what you've got is competition. I mean, it's all right saying, well, we've got this squad. That we've signed George Earthy. There was 2 reasons really. One, if we didn't get Scott Twine, and that was still very possible. And the other was, and both he and McNally desperately wanted to come. And so you've got 2 10s. Now we had another 10 who were developing, Stokes, who's gone out on loan and is pulling up a few trees for Cambridge, who aren't doing that brilliantly. But I think he's got 4 assists in his loan spell so far, and they rested him for a cup game in midweek, so I think they could play him in the league. So he's developing. We've got George Earthy. Now it's all right saying, well, why have we got him? Well, what if Scott Twine gets a knock or gets suspended? He comes straight in and plays 10. What if Scott Twine's blowing out the where after 70 minutes? George Earthy comes on the side, and there's not a hugely discernible drop in quality because a kid can play. So it's a squad game more than ever. Yesterday showed it.
Of course,
you need your power off the bench.
This question about Earthy, right?
Yeah.
I totally agree with what you say. If Twine gets injured, then Earthy comes on as the backup player. Now you could argue that if Twine gets injured, well, then had he still been here and we not got Earthy, Stokes come on. You've got to look at the concept of why Earthy's come here. West Ham have let us have Earthy for him to play minutes. And that's very different, having a second string to our marquee signing. And bearing in mind that if Scott Twine does get injured, there's other players that can play in his position. I think that if Earthy doesn't get, how many games now between now and the end of the start of the January window? 15 games, say 13 games between now and the end of the year. If Earthy doesn't get in minutes the equivalent of a third of those games, I think West Ham will recall him, because he was sat on the bench at West Ham ready to be understudy to whoever he was understudy to in the position.
Dave, George Earthy's a good little player, but he ain't getting in West Ham's team. Although the way they're playing at the moment, he very well might get recalled.
No, but he was getting substitute appearances at West Ham, so he's not advanced.
He had one or two towards the end of the season, right? So he wasn't going to get in the team in place of blokes like Paquetá and Jared Bowen and players like that. They've got a wealth of attacking options, and they signed some more in the summer. So I think just need to calm down. He's been injured for a start, so we need to get him back in the side, play some minutes. I've absolutely no doubt he'll do that, and I think he'd be an effective player from the bench. What if Bird gets injured? What if Knight gets injured? It's a squad game, and we've got a squad of about 28 players, including a few kids. And last season, we had 4 to 6 players out every single week of the season. All right. Now, that's going to continue to happen. I mean, their top man was out yesterday, won the Oxford, Brannigan. Where was he yesterday? Injured?
Yeah,
Must be. So it happens. This stuff happens to teams. We've got Rob Dickie out injured. Somebody said, what's McCrory's best position? He can play right back. He can, if we decide to go with a 3, he can play right wing back. And how about this? You could start off in a 4-2-3-1, get 2-0 up. You want to close the game out. You put Pring or Roberts on the left in front of one or the other, and you put McCrory on in front of Tanner and say, right, get through that lot. So that's the way I would go with it. So if we've got lots and lots of options, McCrory can also play in a back 3. McCrory could, I'll tell you where he played for Aberdeen, hold in midfield. Now, perhaps that would be an idea, because he's got energy, he's got legs, he can tackle, he's good in the air. Now, why not give him a go as a holding midfield player? He can pass the ball.
Alongside Bird as a holding midfield players.
Oh yeah.
I think there's 2 players that have got a little in the starting. I think we've all agreed. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we've all agreed that Joe Williams is not a starter, right? Based on what happened yesterday. But I think there's players that could be, with these players coming back, and what Ian said about McCrory. You could. I think Knight's position is potentially under threat in the starting lineup, and based on comments that at least one of you have made today, if Atkinson is fit and McCrory is fit, Zach Viner's got to be looking over his shoulder, a little bit, with Rob Dickie coming back in, say, after the upcoming international break. These are good options. These are good options to have. Right, let's look forward to Swansea. Mark, we want to go into the next. Have City got the capability to go into the next international break on an unbeaten run of 4 games like today. And if you look at the next 3, it's Swansea away, Sheffield Wednesday at home, and rock bottom Cardiff at home. It'd be nice to go in undefeated. Yeah, we said 4 points. We said 8. I think it was 2 points a game from the run. If we go into this with 13 points from 9 games, that's okay. Which means we got to win 1 and draw 2 of the next 2. Or do you think we're capable of winning all 3?
Well, we're certainly capable of doing it. Away from home, we need to be a little bit more conservative in our defensive play. We're going to have to be a little bit more robust, a little bit more aggressive where it matters. And I don't mean you, Joe Williams, professional fouls. And we need to stick the ball in the back of the net. And I mean, those are our 2 major failings this season, protecting the back 4 and sticking the ball in the net, because we're creating a lot more chances in games. Won't worry about the XG. We are getting into goal scoring positions and creating goals, goal scoring opportunities that we should be taking, and that's the difference from being 13th and being in the top 6. So we're playing against teams down the bottom. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday and Cardiff tend to be a bit more physical. They'll let us have the ball. And I mean, a strange thing is you could even play Naismith as a holding midfield, because he can tackle and he can pass the ball forward quickly.
We said that.
The thing is, I think Manning only saw him as cover, as a left-sided cover in a back 4. We're not going back to a 3, because he could start in a 3. Although, he'd give people nightmares, as the last man. But I just don't think Manning sees him fitting into his system. And similarly with Cornick.
I think those out on loan in January.
Well, yeah, I mean, Naismith could go out on loan if he could be the fittest substitute in the Championship, and Cornick would have to accept an offer when he's still under contract to January 2026. So yeah, we could get 3 wins out of 4. We know that Swansea will like to dominate the ball next week. That'll give us opportunities. We've got to be strong in the middle of the park, turn over the ball and create those attacking chances. And let's be a bit braver, but we just be a bit braver in terms of our tackling and braver in getting players into the box and actually score some goals, but protect that back 4. Don't switch off at free kicks. Don't allow overloads when you don't need to. And Joe Williams, if you're going to play, just get tackle players and don't give stupid professional fouls away.
Okay, Mark, Neil, do you think there's not going to be many changes next week against Swansea, is there? I mean,
no. I mean, fundamentally, for all of our good play going forward this season, we've scored 8 goals in 6 games.
And 4 of those came against,
and four of them came in one game. So we scored 4 goals in 5 games. Then.
Yeah. Well, 6 goal if you include the Coventry Cup game. So, yeah.
One goal away from home all season. Whilst looking, for all of our endeavour, I like Ian said, I was at Derby. Yeah, first half, they were lucky first half, Derby. There was a lot of things that could have gone our way in that first half, but didn't. But we can't go into an away game at Swansea. We had a great result this day.
I think Coventry was suffering some reaction from their efforts again. And Mark Robbins said,
still a great result.
Still a great result for Coventry. Yeah. Mark Robbins said he made an error in his team selection. I was reading the comments.
But they're going to be buoyed from that. We cannot go to Swansea and be as open as we have been. This will take the game to them. We don't have the physicality in the team to take the game to people. They have got us sussed. A lot of these teams have got us sussed. They put the 2 guys in the middle there and the 3 on a block, on a defensive block, the 3 on a block. We don't get through the middle. They win the middle of the park. And we've already spoken about Bird and Knight and that lack of physicality in there. And teams are sussing us out away from home. At home, different story. Our home form is, we've won 2 and drawn 1.
Yeah.
So
that's why Oxford have had a good start, because they won all 3 home games.
Yeah.
But I think they've lost all 3 away now.
But, away from home now.
So the manager has to be sacked then?
Sorry?
Des Buckingham's got to be sacked. They've lost 3 away games.
Well, nobody's talking about sacking Manning. I'm certainly not talking about sacking Manning. What I'm saying
Well, a
is,
lot of people, some people are, according to messages I've been getting.
It's 6 games into the season for me. Six
Yeah,
games into the season, and we are where we are.
Listen, Neil, it's lunacy, but that's the agenda crew for you.
But moving on to the Swansea game,
yeah,
I think moving on to the Swansea game, we do have to do things differently in the Swansea game. Mark's right. We can't approach it in the way that we approach a home game and expect that teams will not dominate us in the way that we, and play against us in the way that they have done last few games. So I'd agree. I'd possibly have a Pring back and then Roberts in front on the left-hand side and look to do something.
I think
we're not scoring goals. So if we're not scoring goals,
and Hirakawa start.
Let's Hirakawa on the right.
Yeah.
Roberts on the left. Pring behind him. Let's go solid, guys. If we get a 1-0 win, we don't concede. You can't go away from home, lose 3-0, 3-0, and then go and think we're going to be open.
No, I mean, look, this is a win against Oxford, thoroughly deserved. One swallow does not a summer make. But look, I think we're done for today. Where are we? Swansea away. That's a 3:00 kickoff next Saturday, isn't it? Yes, over there. So we'll probably do our review of that at 6:00 on Saturday night. Mark, you look like you want to say
it's on Sunday.
It's on Sunday, is it?
Yeah, we could do it Saturday night if you want, but the game isn't until Sunday.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea. Yeah,
we'll be doing it Sunday tea time then. Bloody hell.
Tea time, Sunday.
I got a couple of mentions as well, Dave, as well, please.
Mark, you first. Final word from you. Or were you going to say,
I'm looking forward to the games before the international break with confidence. Let's take this upturn in form. It is a small step into the next game. Get an away win. We haven't got a bad record at the Liberty Stadium. Let's look forward with confidence.
All right. Final word from you, Ian.
Couple of things. I've been meaning to mention this chap for a few weeks. Is a work colleague of my daughter, a guy called Richard Rickwood, who's a big City fan, likes a podcast. So I promised I'd give him a mention. Thanks for your support. I want to mention Section 82 yesterday, who did their mate proud. I can't remember meeting the gentleman. I probably have over the years because I've met most people down the City Ground over nigh on the last 60 years. But I thought they did him proud. I thought once we got going and gave everybody something to sing about, I thought the crowd was good. And as you say, Dave, one swallow doesn't make a summer make. But that applies to defeats as well as victories. So let's we're not all bad. There's lots of teams that are far worse off than we are and look like being worse off. So let's get it right. And I think once we start getting the better players back, and Rob Dickey's a big miss, but to be honest, when he comes back, you could find him playing next to McNally if Zach's not having a great time. Or Rob Atkinson, who will be if he comes. I think
they're all good. They're all good. They're all things are looking reasonably good because they're good team selection problems to have. And I think all the vitriol that was coming out was on the back of two really bad performances. Dave,
I got to disagree with you. They weren't two really bad performances. Derby, we could have won that game if we'd have taken our chances, as Neil said.
All right.
They were very lucky to go in at half-time, at least not 2 goals down. We played badly for 1.5 games. You won't get an argument from me about Blackburn. We were terrible. But the first half at Derby, we were good. We let in a stupid goal. And if we'd have gone in 4-2 up, because they had one shot with his feet.
Your auntie was your uncle. We didn't. I think.
No, Dave, I'm just saying, don't lump those 2 games into one. Blackburn, we were terrible from start to finish, right? And it's still, I'm not going to criticise the manager, apart from his lineup, I'm not going to criticise the manager too much because when your goalkeeper throws the ball in the net in the first 15 minutes,
I know.
And then your holding midfield player falls on his face and doesn't run back when he's 25 yards out, that I'm not going to blame Manning for that. That's just individual errors, and you'll get it. And I see it. You see it in the Premier League every week, so you're definitely going to get it from our lads.
Okay,
so
let me rephrase.
Let's just try and be a little bit
the vitriol that was coming out this last 7 days was the
From
optics
one place.
to 3-0 defeats. You're absolutely right, Ian, because Derby, we could have been up. Blackburn, we were appalling. But the optics of that, the fact that there was a week to dwell on it between the two fixtures, and that the manager didn't seem to make the changes, and that's what all the vitriol was directed at, is that they didn't feel that our best player was being played in his best position. So everything you said there, Ian, is right. Yeah, the results, the optics of the results. I mean, we watch the games online, but probably of the 20,000 City fans, not everybody sits in front of their screen and watches the away games, and they just see the 0-3 defeat in both of those. But look, if we can get something at Swansea next week, it sets us up for 2 home games against lesser sides, yeah. And with the players coming back after injury, it's in a good place. I'll tell you what, Neil, somebody who's not in a good place at the moment is our former player. Final word from you on this one. Our former player, J. Emmanuel Thomas. There's a bit of trouble there, isn't there?
Wow. Yeah. Green and Morton have moved quickly, haven't they, on their decision to second? But there we go. Yeah.
Poor old Jet. What a misplaced talent he was. Anyway, look, so many.
I don't think he's going to get away with that for personal use, is he? 600 grand's worth.
I think £600,000 is a bit much on personal use. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so many songs that one could choose for you, Hirakawa. I hope he doesn't get kicked up in the air when he does start a game, because he looks a star. I liked his little bow. Today's music was Freddie and the Dreamers. You were made for me. But there's so many.
Everybody tells me so, David.
You made me feel brand new. You could have.
It had to be you.
Do you think?
You made me feel.
Did somebody ring Radio Bristol and ask why they were booing him? Because that's what they did with Cole Skuse once. This bloke was proper upset.
Yeah, but Derby boo Adams. They just go boo like that every time.
Sorry.
No,
what was that again? Can you do that again? I just
do it again. Do it, boo. Go on,
boo.
There you go.
Very
anyway,
good.
Look, it's we're ending on a high note. As I say, it's lifted the gloom most definitely, and I think in Hirakawa, based on what we saw yesterday, we got a little gem. He's going to become a crowd's favourite, and I'm looking forward to the 2 upcoming home games. So everybody who's listened today and who's watched today and is going to listen to us on the podcast platform, thanks a lot for your support and your comments. Those of you that have texted during the broadcast, and we'll all be back next Sunday at 6.
I'm not going to do the review
o'clock.
Saturday night, Dave.
There we go. Thanks a lot, everybody.